Welcome all! Today we are taking a look at the RX 460, an entry-level Polaris GPU that was released for $110. Overall, the 400 series was accepted well in the PC community, as AMD finally released the whole non-OEM lineup on a brand new architecture without refreshes like they did with the previous two generations. Oh, and the whole non-OEM lineup was just 3 cards and some variations, so not huge, but it targeted the majority of the market, so it was fine, you know. Its older brothers, or rather bigger brothers, the RX 470 and the 480, were heavily used in the first crypto craze, and some used them even in the second one in the late 2020. Anyway, this is an almost 10 years old 2GB card, but still new compared to what I usually test, so I have changed the test titles a bit to see what it is capable of, but the tested resolution remains at 1080p as always. The model I used does not have any branding, so it is an OEM from Dell, Lenovo, I don't know, without the optional 6-pin power connector, but that one was only used on overclocked models or if the manufacturer wanted the card to be perceived as a better performing one. Personally, I miss the low power GPUs, and nowadays, not nowadays, but you know, for the last 5 years or something, the GPU power increased like crazy. Let us compare the GTX 1000 and Radeon 500 series in regards to cards with less than 120 watts of power. Well, we have the GT 1030, which was not great, not terrible, but it was usable. Then we have the GTX 1050 and its bigger brother, the 1050 Ti. Both variants powered countless gaming rigs and still do to a certain extent nowadays. Then we have both variants of the 1060, but the 6GB version did usually have an 8-pin connector, thus making it a 150 watt card. On AMD sides, we would have the RX 550 and the RX 560, both in both 2 and 4GB configurations, and even some RX 570s, though the majority is rated at 150 watts, again with the 8-pin power connector instead of the 6-pin one. These cards, or at least most of them, you know, if we exclude the GT 1030 and RX 550, but you know, those were still usable for esports, were regarded as capable and could run contemporary games, but what about nowadays? Well, for Nvidia we only have the RTX 3050 and only the 6GB version, which is 2 generations old and it's not as good. And from AMD we have the RX 6400 and 6500 XT, which are in a similar position to the Nvidia counterpart. I mean, what happened to this segment, you know? Times do change, but I'm not sure if it's always for the best, but enough of me reminiscing the past. Now let's see what the card is capable of with some games. As always, we will start with Minecraft, which is not a demanding title for the GPU, as the RX 460 proves that and managed to push almost 290 FPS on average on fabulous settings. Next up is Metro 2033 Redux, an older AAA title with the averages in the high 70s on high settings, though there was a dip in the benchmark at the beginning, which resulted in the minimum value of 10 FPS. Rome 2 Total War, on very high, ran fine in the mid 60s for FPS. World of Tanks manages on average 45 FPS on maximum settings. Lowering the settings to high did net us 20 FPS more. Personally, both quality presets are usable, as the 1% lows are good for such a game. The same holds true for Counter-Strike 2, though the quality settings here were on low, of course, you know. The GPU gave us above 130 FPS on average, and the 1% lows were almost at the 60 mark. Civilization 6 was a contemporary game. On high settings we got almost 32 FPS on average and solid 1% lows for such a game. Warhammer 1 Total War was also released at the same time. With medium settings we get above 50 FPS on average. The Witcher 3 is a demanding title, which is reflected as the GPU gave us only 35 FPS on average on low settings, but the 1% lows in the 20s are enough to play the game comfortably. Last but not least, we have Metro Exodus. Here the GPU struggled and it only managed 26 FPS on average on low settings. The game was stuttery at times, so here I would suggest lowering the resolution in order to achieve a better experience. Overall, I would say that the GPU is still capable and usable nowadays, as it lets you play modern esport titles and older games with decent settings. Though the VRAM limit does hinder it a little bit, so try to get the 4GB variant if possible. If you have liked the content, besides dropping a like and leaving a comment, check out my other videos, as I have tested quite a selection of cards, spanning from the horrible HD 5450 all the way to the capable RX 6600. Was it XT? Yeah, it is the XT version. And also some cheap builds, especially the €50 PC. Please go watch that video, as YouTube simply overlooked it or something. And putting all the work and money into that and just getting 20 views feels, But yeah, that wraps this video up. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all on the battlefield. Gaming Teacher out.